occupancy changes.
Okay.
So,
I'm less concerned about my initial question now.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA -21-00080 for conditional use permit, also with the staff recommendations.
I second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member.
Which is a standard condition within a conditional use permit. It's just not stated here, but it is in the code.
the resolution.
We all clear on that? Yeah, no argument on your
I'm not clear.
motion?
They were talking off mic. I didn't hear anything they said.
Sorry, he doesn't have a mic, that's why. He was just, our legal counsel was just stating there, on the screen and in the staff report, it does not show a listed condition, but there is a standard condition within the conditional use permit that has to do with sound, decibels and operation that could affect surrounding properties. And so that is just automatically included as a condition within this approval.
It's the driving factor for a conditional use permit for this particular use.
Does that clarify for you, Member McBride?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So with that, any other discussion? Natalie, please call the roll.
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Congratulations. Good luck and welcome to hopefully making and distributing some pool products around here. My pool won't be green now because I couldn't get products there for a while. All right. Where am I at here? Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration request by Joe Auza for DSA 20-00203 for a zone change.
Oh, I got the wrong one up, sorry. All right. Joe Alza is requesting a zone change from Garden and Light Industrial, I-1, and Urban Ranch to Planned Area Development, or PAD, for approximately 55.69 acres of land. It's generally located at the southeast corner of Thornton Road and Peters Road. You can see it highlighted below. Right across from Lucid, right across from Walmart, and catty corner from LKQ. Existing zoning, you can see here, is zoned I-1 for most of the north portion, a small urban ranch piece in the bottom. The Casa Grande Technology Hub planned area development is near three major industrial projects, as mentioned, the Lucid, Walmart, and LKQ. And the zone change request is position the property to provide ancillary supportive and compatible uses within the existing industrial corridor. City of Casa Grande's planned area development designation provides property owners the flexibility to develop land utilizing site-specific development standards, creating a natural harmony between land uses that would otherwise not be possible through the traditional zoning classifications. Utilizing the basic parameters of the B4 and the I2 zones, this PAD will provide development regulations and design guidelines that facilitate an effective mix of heavy commercial, manufacturing, and industrial uses, while also ensuring a cohesive and quality design. You can see the land use map here. The B4, or the heavy commercial uses, are situated on the hard corner of Peters Road and Thornton in the northwest portion of the property. And then the purple area is going to be the industrial uses, so kind of situated behind that commercial zone. When looking at the PAD review criteria, we look at the following criteria. We'll just kind of concentrate on the ones highlighted tonight. The rest are covered in your staff report. The first one is the relationship with the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. So as mentioned, the project is located near three major industrial projects. The PAD zoning document will create signage and design standards that will be compatible and/or enhance the industrial corridor along Thornton Road and Peters Road. Staff does not anticipate any adverse effect on surrounding properties with this request. All future proposed projects will require the submittal of a major site plan and/or plat and will be reviewed for compatibility at that time as well. Second criteria is conformance to the city's general plan. The application was submitted under the 2020 general plan. The 2030 plan has since been voted on and approved. Both the 2020 and the 2030 plan have this site located within the manufacturing and industry category. The manufacturing and industry categories appropriate land uses do include those B4, I1, and I2 zone district, as well as the uses proposed within this PAD request. Among others, this request supports the following general plan goals. MI2, mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users. That includes an action step, MI 2.2, which encourages compatibility by utilizing architectural details and aesthetics, which is one of the criteria that they've put within that PAD. The next one is MI5, encourage appropriate and responsible industrial development in appropriate locations. As this site is located near those other industrial projects, it does fit very well within our industrial corridor, and it's an appropriate site for industrial uses. So staff finds that the proposed PAD is in compliance with the 2030 general plan. The next is conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. As a guide to reviewing the PAD zoning within a manufacturing and industry category, staff will look to ensure it's compatible with the appropriate industrial zoning categories and the PAD standards, which is 17.40.020. This PAD generally complies with the standards adopted for the B4 and the I2 zone district. It is anticipated that the B4 compatible uses will be placed along Thornton Road and Peters Road frontages, with the I2 compatible uses located in the rear or back portion of the property. We did have one setback deviation, so it's 1740.020N states for building height and setbacks. In general, a building setback from property adjacent to the PAD site shall approximate its height, meaning if it's a 40-foot building, it requires a 40-foot separation or a 40-foot setback. So setbacks for the project have been modified per staff's request to provide 30-foot setbacks from all public and private streets and 15-foot setbacks from all other property boundaries. So staff believes the 15-foot setback from the perimeter of the PAD area is sufficient, as the surrounding sites are all within the manufacturing and industry category and will develop as industrial sites, and it is not likely to cause an adverse impact on surrounding properties. It also matches the existing I2 zone district standards for rear and interior side setbacks. So if they did request it, just straight I2 zoning, that 15-foot setback would be their setback. So staff will ensure setbacks are met at the time of any major site plan submittal and evaluate if any proposed use requires additional buffer area to be compatible with other surrounding uses and property. Next one is pedestrian and vehicular ingress and egress. As previously mentioned, a conceptual layout for the site was provided with the PAD. City traffic engineer has reviewed the proposal and approved the locations for ingress and egress for this particular PAD. Furthermore, the city is in the process of expanding Thornton Road, and there will be pedestrian sidewalks provided in conjunction with that expansion, At the time of any future development, each proposed project will be required to provide additional traffic and pedestrian access evaluations in conjunction with any associated site plan or plating submittal. In regards to notification, again, we met or exceeded all requirements for the city. We did not receive any comments for this particular request. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2000203, a zone change from urban ranch and garden and light industrial to planned area development with the following conditions. The first condition is our standard condition for the right-of-way dedication, which they're already in the process of providing that dedication. And then the second condition is the setback condition that I mentioned earlier, where we amend setbacks to read 30 feet from all public and/or private streets, 15 feet from all other property boundaries. Any questions?
Questions for staff?
Chairman Miller, I have a question. Mr. Horn, you mentioned that the surrounding properties are zoned currently industrial, particularly the 15-foot setback?
Not zoned industrial. They're in our general plan category as manufacturing and industry. I believe the properties to the west is Lucid, so that's zoned I-2. North is I-1, which is Walmart. LKQ is I-2 to the northeast. To the east, those properties
They're
are general rural
right,
within
which
the
is
county.
residential, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the,
acre and a quarter.
Currently being farmed right now, but fall within our manufacturing industry category.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make that clarification that
Sure.
it is currently residential zoned on the east side.
Any other questions for staff? No? All right. Sounds good. Would the applicant and/or their representative like to come forward?
Kirk McCarville, the Land Advisors Organization. We had a very competent planner hired to be here tonight, but she decided this would be a good weekend to take a vacation. So I too just flew in, but not from Bozeman, from Cox and Martin. And we have, been working on this project for a while, and it's kind of a work in progress. We've had some recent requests from the power company. Can we pull the site plan back up there?
Sure.
So currently on the southeast corner, there's a substation that belongs to San Carlos Electric, and it's actually on a piece of leased land that they do not own. They purchased the 3-acre site to the south a long time ago, and their goal is to move the substation from the hard corner to the land that they own down there. They recently came to us and asked if we would consider selling them some additional land so they could increase the size of that substation to provide additional power to potential users in the area, and we're entertaining that with them. That's a kind of a lengthy negotiation because it has to go through a number of levels of approval on their side. However, there is some land on the east side that is probably not useful for us anyway, and maybe a little bit of land to the north. And in the meantime, we're meeting with the developer about bringing forth the development on the property, and they say that we've missed an opportunity there where the road comes in from Thornton, because on the right side where that road comes in would be an ideal place to put fast food or service for the workers in the area, and we still have it as industrial. So with my planner on vacation, I haven't been able to, our thought was to go forward and with this level of improvement, and as a disclosure item, say that we may come back with another site plan approval request, and I'm open for suggestions, would it be better just to table this for now and not try to get this level of improvement? Again, with my planner out of town, and I'm a broker, I'm not sure. I'm looking to Paul.
So what I'm hearing you saying, Kurt, is that you may want to replace some of that purple industrial with some more commercial.
Yes,
Is that true?
and we may actually be changing the size of the substation property. It's about 3 acres, and it may go
Gotcha.
to 4 or 5.
So given the level of those changes, all of which would require a major amendment to this application, including new review by planning commission and city council, I would recommend you ask for a postponement to make the modifications you're thinking about and come back.
I think I want to follow Paul's advice.
Sweet.
We're not ready yet because of things that are going on
Sure.
the property.
Makes sense. It's probably smart, rather than shoving it through and then doing it all over again. You know? Though we never, mind you coming in front of us, and
Next time,
Maybe
I'm
they
I'm
charge-
sending the planner.
maybe they charge you some sort of fee to get to this point. We could have charged you a second one. It'd been fun, but. So are you withdrawing your application for the night's meeting?
Yes, I would like to withdraw my application.
Can we do that? Are we allowed to do that?
Well-
Do we just vote to
Do they
table it?
table it?
You want us to table it?
You know, at this point, since we've opened the hearing, I would recommend a motion to postpone
Okay?
or table. And then it doesn't have to be date specific. You can
Yeah,
just table
we'll
it.
just-
And the applicant can tell us when he's ready to come back and we'll reschedule it for a
Sounds
new
like a
hearing.
great plan.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to postpone. Any discussion? Natalie, would you please, or can I do all in favor on this one, yeah? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none? Postpone.
Thank you for your time. I'm glad I didn't take very much of it.
Just gotta have that planner call in earlier so you could fly in before the meeting and tell us, and we could have done that. Have a good evening, and thanks for joining us. All right. What am I looking for? All right. Next item, public hearing and consideration and request by C. Emmett. Oh, I'm sorry. Sequoia?
Right in front of you, DSA.
All right, now
Yeah.
it's my turn to say that name?
Yeah,
So,
it is.
okay, hopefully we get it correct. So Emmett Sequoia is requesting a zone change from single-family residential, R1, to multifamily residential, R3, for approximately 1.69 acres of land located at 1563 North Crane Street. You can see the location highlighted below. It's just south of Cottonwood along Crane. Existing zoning shows as R1. I apologize, this will seem like a similar presentation you already heard tonight, but a little smaller site. Proposed zoning is R3. General plan category is community center. The site is requested to be rezoned to create a multifamily apartment complex. Project aims to address the growing and unmet need for multifamily residences. If the zone change is approved, all uses permitted and/or conditional in the R3 zone district would be allowed and will be required to obtain approval of a major site plan and conditional use permit if necessary. So staff feels this is a good opportunity to provide workforce housing in an infill site near the manufacturing and industrial area of the city, as well as add new development to the west side neighborhoods. When looking at the review criteria, we looked at it's in conformance with the general plan. The first is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and other applicable elements. This site's also in the Phase 1 primary growth area of the 2030 plan. The requested zoning of multifamily residential is appropriate in the community center. Goal H2 states to encourage a variety of neighborhood design as development patterns. This is an area near a manufactured home park as well as other single-family residences, so the multifamily would add some additional variety in that neighborhood design. Goal H5 also states encourage higher density residential projects in the community corridor areas. Second item to review is that a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses of the general plan. The request for a zone change to R3, again, is an allowable and appropriate land use within the general plan. The community center category allows for a density between 4 and 20 units per acre At 1.69 acres, that site could accommodate between 7 and 34 dwelling units, depending on the size of the unit, number of bedrooms, and number of stories. The third is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the needs of the city. The zone change will allow the owner to develop and utilize the property for a new multifamily apartment complex, a product type that the city has determined to need additional inventory of. If the zone change is denied, the maximum density would be limited to the 5 as discussed before due to the ADWR requirements and the Certificate of Assured Water Supply requirements. In regards to notification, again, we met or exceeded all timelines. We did not receive comments on this project. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval for the zone change request, DSA 21-00077, from single-family residential to multifamily residential R3 with the following conditions. Condition A is to provide pedestrian access sidewalk connecting to the existing trail corridor to the south to be implemented at time of major site plan submittal. And the second condition is our standard condition for right-of-way. Any questions?
Questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Member Benedict.
Help me understand a little bit about that, that pedestrian pathway. It appears to me to be the
Sure.
skip canal that was covered.
Yeah.
And so we've got walk that goes partway down that, but doesn't finish out through the community. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's correct. So in looking at the site, we felt it would be a good opportunity to introduce a connection between any proposed project here and that public path that we have. You can see it does dead end. It's part of our goal is to increase our paths throughout the city, pedestrian access throughout the city. This just gives us one way to utilize or put people on those paths and start that process.
So follow up to that, who owns that strip?
Yeah, so I'll let Paul cover it.
St. Carlos Irrigation Project
Okay.
owns that. The project owns the land. We did have an agreement with the St. Carlos Improvement District to tile it and build the trail on top of it some time ago, maybe 15 years or so, I guess, maybe something like that, maybe 20. So it is owned by St. Carlos Irrigation Project. You can see that it does connect over to the school facilities on the east side of Pinal. So there would be connectivity for the children living in this development to be able to walk to school easily or bike to school.
But am I correct that the path, the sidewalk or the path isn't completed all the way to the west? Is that right, or am I
You
missing
mean
something?
Terminates.
from this site to the school, it's completed. You can see it on there, right? It just terminates to the west and whatever that, I guess it's probably another
an easement.
section of the canal.
Terminates right there.
Yeah, but it goes further to the east from the site.
Well, I guess that's my question was, with that, I mean, it'd be nice for the community to have that completed, and it doesn't appear to be completed through to there, and how do we work on that as, it looks, I appreciate very much putting it in, that's a great step. How do we continue it?
So the city does have a regional trails plan. This trail, as well as the extension and future connectivity of this trail, is on that plan. I know that our community service department is kind to prioritize the sections that they're trying to get built. Right now, they're actually focused on the St. Carlos kind of wash area by Rotary Park from Treckle over to Peart. So, but I will mention to the community service director your comments so they can consider, prioritizing this section as well.
Just it'd be nice to have that completed project for that. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? I will note it, I live near that intersection of that path in Pinal. It is quite heavily used for children, which is good, but yeah, probably be good for it not to dead end somewhere, but it does help that existing neighborhood, and it would be very easy for an apartment complex to, any children to live there to just jump on that and get in to school or ride a bike, and we take our kids on walks on that path and all that fun stuff. All right. Nothing else? Applicant. Would the applicant and or their representative like to come forward and speak to this agenda item?
My name is Lenoy Alston. I'm 850 South Freeman, Tucson, Arizona is my home address. This is very similar to the one that was, I think, number 3 that was up before. Ironically, Mr. Soki has asked me to represent him because he's in Bozeman, Montana. I didn't even realize that 2 people lived in Bozeman.
That's awesome. He's the book, Mr. Bozeman back. Mr. Bozeman, Montana back there's laughing himself. It's awesome.
So,
We'll need to get together. Maybe we work on some other stuff, right?
I don't have any additions or deletions from what has already been said. If you have any questions for me, as best I can, I would answer those questions. I wasn't aware that it was honestly, we were not aware that it was the property right next to you're considering was owned by the San Carlos tribe. So I don't know if that complicates things or not. You'll have to talk to us later about that, Joe.
Yeah, no. Any questions for the applicant? No?
Well, to answer a previous question, he was concerned about lumber costs. 1 or 2 months ago, lumber was up 388%, but it's only up 261% as of yesterday. So it's a really great deal right now.
I mean,
It's expensive. We're building other properties right now in the city, and those costs are not affecting us at all, if that is any concern.
it's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. We
Right,
appreciate
thank
it. So this time I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? It's been a really wild public segment this evening, I tell you. I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move forward a recommendation for approval to the city council for the zone change request DSA 21-00077
I'll second
with
that
the
motion.
conditions listed.
I'll second that motion.
Let's have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right.
Be after.
Next agenda item, public hearing and consideration request by Mark Reddy and Kyle Baricello of RVI Planning for DSA 21-00011 major site plan.
So you may recall that last month, this item was in front of you for the PAD amendment, rezoning a portion of the Los Prados PAD to accommodate the bungalows on Florence. This evening, Planning Commission is asked to consider the major site plan portion of their development. As I mentioned, last month you were considering an amendment for a 16.4 acre portion of the Los Prados PAD. It was amended to go from 10 acre multifamily site to a 16.4 acre single family for rent site. City Council did have the first reading on the PAD amendment recently, and they did vote to approve the PAD, and it's now scheduled for the second reading at the July 6th meeting by City Council. So this evening, the applicant is asking you to consider the major site plan request. This development entails the construction of 191 single-family rental units. As you see on the excerpt on the screen, the layout of each individual unit, it's in a cluster-type fashion. All the roadways through there are private. It will be a gated rental complex. The individual units will be comprised of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, ranging from approximately 700 square feet to over 1,200 square feet in size. These homes will be both 1 and 2 stories. They've provided 5 different floor plans, each with 2 elevation styles. And each unit comes with a backyard patio and a tree. On this screen, you can see sort of the typical layout of the units and how each one does provide for a walled patio. This excerpt shows you the variety of housing types that will be provided with these rental units. There are 2 two-story homes and 3 single-story homes, each with 2 elevation styles. When reviewing major site plans, in front of you is the review criteria that has to be evaluated and addressed, and the staff report assesses each one of these and demonstrates how these are being met. I'm going to just talk about these highlighted items. So the first one that I want to talk about is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. When you look at the surrounding zoning to Los Prados, to the east and west and north are all commercially designated. And so this single-family for rent project will be a very good transitional use from what's likely going to be commercial on the east to the existing commercial on the north and west. But also when you look at to the south, there's undeveloped property that is planned for multifamily. And then to the southwest, there is an existing single-family residential neighborhood. This is a really good use to place next to that because unlike a traditional multifamily development where you have potentially 3-story high apartment units, this is going to take on the form of a medium-density single-family residential neighborhood in looking at the fact that these are individual detached dwellings. And they are providing a setback of 30 feet from the property line between the single-family residential neighborhood and those buildings along the south. The next criteria I want to talk about is the conformance to the city's general plan. So this is a little bit interesting because the northern third of the parcel is within the community corridor portion of the general plan, and the remaining 2/3 are within the neighborhoods designation. But in terms of whether or not this type of development is supportable, it is, because in both the neighborhoods and community corridor, this type of development is allowed. They're proposing a density that will be about 12 dwelling units per acre, and within the neighborhood section, up to 20 dwelling units is allowed. Within community corridor, even more. So their proposed density lies within an acceptable range for either. The next criteria I want to talk about is the impact of the plan on the existing and anticipated traffic conditions, as well as pedestrian and vehicular ingress and egress. So The Los Prados PAD has seen a lot of development proposals recently. As you recall, a couple months ago, Whataburger was in front of you, and there was some discussion about how to best link both pedestrian and vehicular connection to that parcel. And then on an upcoming meeting item this evening, I'm going to be talking about a proposed grocery store next to Whataburger. And so fortunately, we have had the ability to work with all three developers to come up with a little bit more of a cohesive circulation pattern. The site will rely on an existing north-south access drive on the Walmart property. There is an existing cross-access easement allowing this site to get access from the Walmart access drive. And that east-west access drive in Walmart will be extended into the Los Prados development. But there's the added benefit of a new north-south drive, a new driveway off of Florence Boulevard that will serve as the Los Prados' front door. This access drive lies in between Whataburger and Aldi's, and it leads into this bungalow project. I also want to note that the bungalow project itself will not only have access to the north through these access drives that I've discussed, but there's also going to be an exit-only and emergency access onto Via del Cielo Road to the east, which will be improved adjacent to their parcel. It's a minor collector road. One of the concerns with the bungalows project at Treckle and Cottonwood was bus pickup for school children. And so this applicant was proactive and looked at designing a location for pickup and incorporated that into their plans early on. They're proposing a bus loading area on the south side of the access drive in front of their site. So essentially the school bus will take the Walmart access drive and then from Florence head south, turn onto this extended east-west access drive to pick up students, and it will exit onto Florence by the new access drive in between Aldi's and Whataburger. I should also note that they're proposing a sidewalk on both sides of the access drive for good pedestrian connectivity. Regarding the public notification process for this, there were a series of notices that met, if not exceeded, those requirements set out by city code. Staff hasn't received any inquiries or comments on the proposed development as a result of these notification efforts. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve DSA 21-00011, a major site plan for the bungalows on Florence, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Member Benedict.
The access from the Walmart parking there, what's the right term? Traffic control gonna be there? Stop signs, light? Because I'm trying to remember, there's a stop sign, but then one of them doesn't have a stop sign, or what's gonna be the status?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Benedict, that's a great question. So the TIAs submitted for all three of these projects have some recommendations. The first one that we looked at with Whataburger had proposed that instead of the existing stop condition be as it is right now on the Walmart access drive, which is a stop sign going north-south for traffic, it had suggested changing that condition to where the stop sign would be east-west, and so there would be free flow of traffic. So if that were to be incorporated into the plan, it would involve some restriping of those lanes. There's basically two southbound lanes, and one would be striped to make left turns which would be heading east into Los Prados. There is the possibility, as we do some further analysis of the traffic flow, especially given that now there will be a new north-south access drive directly to Florence between this development, that access drive, that existing one we're talking about with Walmart, may be able to be presented as a four-way stop condition. That's a possibility as well now. But with that new access drive being punched out to Florence, we're anticipating that there's going to be lesser reliance on that access drive.
Thank you.
Chairman Miller, I have a question.
Let her go first.
The access point along Walmart, is it a public street or is it a private street today, or will it be?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Garza, so currently it's a private access drive, but there is an existing easement that's granted giving this development the ability to use it.
So the city wouldn't be maintaining the
Correct.
access? And then my second question is, there's no improvements to a right turn lane on Florence Boulevard at the traffic signal or the driveway, the new driveway between Whataburger and Aldi?
Commissioner Garza, actually the Aldi site plan, which I'm going to review next, does propose a right turn lane into the site. So where that will be, just to describe it, because I know I always get confused when people start talking about right turn lanes, left turn lanes. So going eastbound on Florence, there will be a new turn lane to go south into the new access drive that will be in between Aldi's and Whataburger.
So there's a decel lane?
And Dwayne Itel just informed me that there is an existing right turn lane there to get to the existing Walmart access drive.
Member Dugan?
The traffic going west on Florence Boulevard, the only place to get into the grocery store or to the Whataburger, they have to go to the light to get in, correct?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Dugan, on the Aldi site plan, which I'm going to talk about next, there's a better graphic to show that circulation. However, it's a fair question for this project because it's also going to get traffic from that access drive. But if I can describe it without the picture, hopefully it's clear. They are proposing a raised, what's known as the splitter island on the new access point. And so what that will do is it will allow rights in and rights out of the Los Prados development, but it will also be designed so that if you're heading westbound on Florence, you can make a left turn in. So it's known as a three-turn access. The only movement that it won't allow is left turns out. So if you're at the site and you want to head west onto Florence, you can't make that movement. So it's that traffic that would probably be compelled to take the existing north-south access drive to where there is a stoplight condition.
Yep.
But also for this bungalow project, there is an opportunity for traffic to exit onto Via del Cielo as well, although that really won't help them make left turns, but it's just an additional way to distribute traffic.
And that was my next question, the Valdell Road. They can go out, that's not only for emergency use, they can go out, anybody can exit out of there, correct?
Correct, any of the
And
rental
why don't you let
residents.
them be able to go in from there also? What's the purpose of not letting them come back in that direction where they can, if they're coming from the going west, they could turn down the make a left-hand turn and come in that way and go in that gate? Wouldn't that help traffic flow better if they allow that gate to let them come back in that way also, instead of only exit it?
Commissioner Dugan, that's a great question, and the applicant is here to talk about that. There's no reason in my mind why that has to be limited to exit only. The width of that driveway wouldn't have to change. It would probably be just a matter of how they position their gate. It may have to do with queuing for if there's a lot of traffic trying to access that gate. Since it is a gated community, they may have to reconfigure that, but I'll have the applicant address that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the staff?
Chairman Miller,
Member Garza.
quick question. On Via del Cielo, are there going to be restricted movements in traffic for left turns?
No.
So as it is currently, there would only be a stop condition to make turning movements or to go forward once you're at Florence. The traffic impact analysis that was done for all three developments does not affect the impact to that road to the extent that it needs to have a modifications on that road.
And does it sit on a half-mile section or a mile section?
It does not.
Okay.
I think it's a quarter mile, and so it's known as a minor collector, but the next arterial road is Hennis, which is about, I think, 800 feet to the east.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. And at this time, I will invite the applicant and/or their representative. Oh, the popcorn.
Good evening tonight, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Kyle Barkello from RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture. Property address is 120 South Ash Avenue, Suite 201 in Tempe, Arizona, 85281. So wanted to first thank James and Paul for getting all of these pending developments together to talk about the circulation, because a lot of great things came out of that meeting together, a lot of coordination and realigning the drive aisles and making sure everything really flows much better in this area. James covered pretty much everything that I would have addressed in my comments. Specifically, I would like to respond to Commissioner Dugan as it relates to the dual access along Via del Cielo. In all of our projects throughout the valley, we typically do not provide a secondary full access onto a separate roadway, in this case, Via del Cielo, for a couple of reasons. One, it relates to the design of that. It needs to be large enough to accommodate a turnaround space in case residents are not able to get into that. It includes an additional access, design in terms of how the gate is designed. It's just not the standard practice with the bungalow projects that in our client that we represent, advanced acquisition. So in this case, what we've determined is a lot of the traffic that would be leaving this project would be taking that Walmart traffic light, and they would be turning left at that. And we see that as a more viable option because of there's that traffic light there. So anybody going onto Via del Cielo could exit that way, but the majority of the traffic coming in would be primarily accessed through Florence Boulevard and that Walmart access. So we just didn't feel that the amount of traffic and the turning movements going into this project would justify that two-way opening on Via del Cielo. Hope that answers your question. I'd be happy to try to answer it in another way.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
The only reason I suggested is because of the amount of traffic that's on Florence Boulevard. It just gives them another exit to get out of. And everybody has to go through that to the light, or it has to go to the light to make a left-hand turn, or otherwise I guess they could go through the parking lot and go all down to the next light. But it just gives them another way to get out of it. And that's
Understood.
why I'm suggesting it.
Yeah, understood. And I guess more of a question for Dwayne, as we understand it, the Florence Boulevard would have a median that goes all the way east-west in the future, so that would prevent a left turn from Via del Cielo going west on Florence Boulevard. And I think that might also contribute to part of the reason why that's proposed as exit only.
We are looking at additional raised medians on Florence Boulevard, we haven't actually
Okay.
moved ahead with a concrete plan to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right. 6 months out of the year, it'll be okay. I drive up and down Florence quite a bit, and this time of year, it's okay. It's pretty doable. Well, I appreciate you being here this evening and taking time to help give us some clarifications. No other questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to just throw it out there to all you public that want to speak to this agenda item. Seeing nobody, I'm going to close the public portion. Commission?
I'd like to make a motion that the planning commission approve DSA -21-00011, the bungalows on Florence.
Second.
So a motion and a second for the approval of the major site plan. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Congratulations. Oh, I get to turn the page on the agenda. It's a good thing. How's everybody doing? Time out. All right.
2 hours.
Let's take a quick little break here. If that's all right with everybody.
Yes, sir.
And
Okay.
we will reconvene in a couple minutes.
We've got one more, right?
We good? All right. Yes.
Man.
I enjoy sitting in this chair way too much sometimes. All right, we're gonna get this party started again. Agenda number 8, public hearing and consideration request by Sterling Markets and Brian Wright of Himley Horn. There's a whole bunch of these. DSA 21-00058 preliminary replat, DSA 21-00059 major site plan, DSA 21-00097 landscape variance. Mr. Gagliardi.
All right, thank you. So this is another Los Prados development for Aldi grocery store. And just a brief overview, the Aldi site sits just to the west of the existing Denny's and Quality Inn within the Los Prados PAD and subdivision. How this fits with the other proposed developments is shown on the screen here. This is an excerpt of the major site plan that's being proposed to accommodate this grocery store. And as I was saying, this graphic does a little bit better job showing the planned circulation. Using the Walmart access drive to the west, the extension of the east-west access drive into the Los Prados site, and showing the fact that there will be a new north-south access drive between Whataburger and Aldi. Some facts about the proposed development is it is proposed to be a 20,442 square feet grocery store. The site sits on 2.84 acres, and they're proposing 95 parking spaces. In addition to the major site plan request, they also are requesting a variance to the landscape code to allow a 13-foot deep landscape area where 15 feet is required. But first, I'm going to discuss their preliminary replat request. The reason for this request is to reconfigure the existing lots within Los Prados subdivision to accommodate the new Aldi, Whataburger, and Bungalows development. The Los Prados subdivision plat was recorded around 1987, and it is shown on the left. The replat will be dubbed Los Prados 2, and it'll be for 3 lots. Lot 1 will be for Whataburger at 1.3 acres in size. Lot 2 is for Aldi at 2.3 acres, and Lot 3 is for the Bungalows development at 16.4 acres. The area highlighted in gray is an exception. It's part of the original Los Prados subdivision, but it's not included with this replat. It's where Denny's and Quality Inn sits. That will remain part of the existing plat, and the replat will be new for these 3 lots. Also, as part of the replat, there will be a 20-foot dedication for Florence Boulevard right-of-way. With that 20 feet dedication, it will make Florence a 70-foot half-street, which is what is required as a principal arterial road. So it will meet its necessary 70 feet half-street dedication. When reviewing preliminary plats, there's a number of things that staff looks at to ensure that the plat is adequate with regard to compliance with the general plan, zoning, accommodation for drainage, roadway, etc. I'm going to just talk about these 2 highlighted items. The first is the conformance with the zoning. This is within the Los Prados Planned Area Development Zone. Lots 1 and 2 are commercially designated per that Planned Area Development Zone. And Lot 3 is the area that is subject to the recent PAD amendment to allow a single-family rental site for 191 units. The Los Prados PAD does not provide a lot of specificity with regard to development standards, and it doesn't provide any sort of direction in terms of what an adequate lot width or lot size is. So what staff did is we compared these proposed lots with the most similar hard zone districts. So lot 1 and 2 are very similar to the city's B2 zone district, which these lot sizes and lot widths do comply with. So our analysis is if it complies with our standard B2 zone, it can comply here, or it will function here rather. And lot 3, where the bungalows is going, is probably most similar to an R2 or R3 multifamily zone. And this lot configuration also meets that which is required in that zone district. The next I want to talk about is access and adequacy of public road and infrastructure. So as I discussed previously, they are taking a number of steps to ensure not only adequate vehicular circulation through the site, but there also will be an enhanced pedestrian circulation as well. One thing that I would like to update the Planning Commission on is that if you recall, when Whataburger was in front of you, there was a discussion about bringing a sidewalk along the east side of the Walmart access drive that will now be accommodated. There will be a sidewalk running north-south along the western part of Whataburger next to the access drive. There will also be a sidewalk along the east side of the Los Prados access drive and a sidewalk on the north and south part of the east-west access drive through Los Prados. The other thing that I want to speak to with regard to traffic is that there will be the aforementioned 20-foot right-of-way dedication for Florence. This will allow the ability to construct a right turn lane into the new access drive. Via del Cielo already does have the dedication. That was achieved with the first plat for Los Prados. However, there will be half-street improvements to Via del Cielo abutting the bungalows development. As far as the next steps go, should Planning Commission approve this preliminary replat, City Council will then consider the final replat at an upcoming hearing. And then what will happen is there will be the continuance of the 3 respective developments to submit site development permits, public improvement permits for any sort of off-site work that would be associated with their development. Staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the Los Prados preliminary replat. The next application being considered this evening is for the major site plan for Aldi. These are the review criteria that staff looks at when considering major site plans, and the staff report goes into each one of these in great detail, but I'm going to just talk about the 2 highlighted items. The first item I'm going to talk about is the conformance with the city's general plan. It's probably no surprise because you saw this with the presentation before, but this site sits within the community corridor designation of the 2030 general plan. What community corridor strives to achieve is a design of development that minimizes vehicular activity, sort of underscores that, and tries to promote pedestrian activity. And so one of the ways that this site plan achieves that is by providing only 1 row of parking between the building and the Florence Boulevard right-of-way. In addition to only providing 1 row of parking, which helps minimize that sea of parking that would otherwise be seen between the building and the street, is they're proposing a screen wall that will help also minimize the view of the parking area. Additionally, they're going to extend the public sidewalk that's along Florence Boulevard into the site by running a sidewalk along the east side of the new north-south access drive. That sidewalk will extend into the site through a series of crosswalks to lead to the building proper. One of the recommended conditions of staff is that freestanding signage be limited to monument style only, not to exceed 15 feet in height. The reason for this recommended condition is monument style signage is more pedestrian friendly. It's designed for areas where there is likely to be slower speeds. The need for a taller sign tends to be more appropriate along highways or traffic ways that have higher speeds, and you need to see the sign because you're traveling faster than 45 miles per hour. But as Florence continues to urbanize, even though it is a major arterial road, the goal is to also have that be an environment where it's pedestrian friendly as well. The other criteria I want to talk about is building location and height. So because the Los Prados PAD does not have very many definitive development standards, we evaluated the placement of this building with relation to if it were zoned B2. We felt that if it met the B2 zoning development standards, then it would be adequate within a commercial designated PAD. As you see, the B2 zone requires a minimum front setback of 35 feet. This development is providing 63.5 from the front property line. It's meeting the side yard and the rear yard setbacks as well as the maximum height. Maximum height in the B2 zone's 30, and they're proposing 20 feet tall building. Here's an excerpt of the elevations. And as you can see, they're proposing a mixture of materials from stucco and brick to glass to a metal panel system. Staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the Aldi major site plan, subject to the condition regarding detached signage being limited to monument style, no taller than 15 feet in height. The last application to be requested associated with Aldi this evening is the variance of the landscape code. The request is for a 13-foot landscape frontage where 15 feet is otherwise required. In evaluating the landscape plan provided, I wanted to talk about how it's meeting the, where it's doing a good job meeting the city code with regard to landscaping. So the landscape code talks about landscaping in a number of ways. Firstly, with regard to parking, the landscape code requires 2 trees and 3 shrubs for every 3 parking spaces on the site. So with 95 parking spaces, that would require 64 trees and 95 shrubs. And they are providing 64 trees, but over 300 shrubs and accent plants. The landscape code also talks about frontage distribution of landscaping to where there should be 1 tree and 3 shrubs for every 30 feet of street frontage. The lot is to be 333 feet wide, so that would require 12 trees and 36 shrubs. They're proposing 15 trees and over 100 shrubs in that landscape frontage area. The landscape code goes on to require an average area of 15 feet along the property's frontage to be provided for landscaping, and this is where the variance comes in. They're requesting 13 feet. But I do want to talk about that a little bit because it's not going to look like 13 feet. It's going to be greater than that, and I'll walk you through that. So the existing right-of-way is 50 feet. There will be an additional 20 feet to be dedicated for Florence Boulevard right-of-way. That 20 feet will largely be, it's not going to change over, in the recent future because that's going to be reserved for future city improvements, such as the addition of a travel lane, etc. So as existing, there will be, after the dedication, there will be 8 feet of that right-of-way that per the street profile is unused. It's not designed for any sort of roadway improvement. It's just a gap between the public sidewalk and the property line, which is allowed to be landscaped and will be landscaped. But the point being is prior to any of those future improvements, as you see, there's going to be landscaping well north of that area. They're going to utilize the 8 feet of unused right-of-way for landscaping, and then 5 feet on the property for landscaping, totaling 13 feet of landscape. Normally, in order to meet the 15-foot requirement, if you were to use the unused portion of the right-of-way of 8 feet, then that would mean you'd have to provide at least 7 feet of landscaping on the property. In this case, they're providing that which is allowed to be used in the right-of-way, but they're proposing only 5 feet of landscaping on the property. And as I mentioned, I forgot that I had this slide. As you can see, though, there's going to be additional right-of-way landscaping until future city improvements occur. When reviewing variances to the landscape code, Planning Commission may consider a variance in conjunction with the approval of the major site plan when exists extraordinary conditions of topography, land ownership, and site boundaries. And I bolded that because I believe in this case, that's really the situation. The site would have been fine, but because of the right-of-way dedication process, they're losing 20 feet. And so that is prompting their request for the variance. And then also Planning Commission can consider a variance to the extent deemed appropriate to the public interest, provided that the purpose and intent of the landscape section of the city code is maintained. I argue that it is being maintained because, as I mentioned, there is ample landscaping for the area that will be permanent landscaping until it's improved in the future by the city. The variance request is minimum. It's 13 feet where 15 feet would otherwise be required, so it's just a difference of 2 feet. They are providing a screen wall next to the parking spaces, so that will soften the lack of landscape depth. I should point out that the splitter island that's being put in on the new north-south access drive will be landscaped. And that's kind of a unique feature because it's not going to be just a chunk of concrete. It's going to be landscaped to soften the view of the infrastructure. And then also on the east side of the access drive will be landscaping next to between the parking and the access drive. So that will also help create an enhanced public experience as traffic turns into Los Prados. So staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the landscape variance. Regarding the notification process, our notification efforts met, if not exceeded, that which is required by city code. Staff hasn't received any inquiries or comments. I just want to take a moment to point out this really nice picture that was provided by the sign company. I really like the lighting on it, and you can see the open field in the background, which gives credence to the name Los Prados. It means the meadows, but it won't be meadows after all these developments are approved. So staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the 3-lot preliminary replat for Los Prados, the major site plan, subject to the condition regarding the freestanding signage, and the landscape variance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Yeah, don't yell at me.
Member Benedict, please.
So there isn't a cross traffic from restaurant and hotel, as I recall. Drop. Is that correct?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Benedict, actually there may be an elevation drop, but that could have probably been designed in a way that that wasn't an issue. The reason is that there is no existing cross access with Denny's and Quality Inn allowing this development to access it.
Okay, thank you. Then, one more, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go for it. The floor is yours.
If we had forced the issue for 2 more feet, would have moved the parking, I guess, 2 feet to the south? Is that correct?
Commissioner
Just-
Benedict, you're correct, but it would have resulted in a drive aisle that wouldn't meet the required 25-foot minimum. So everything would have had to have been shifted south. And it ultimately becomes sort of a tight site.
Very good.
What triggered the tightness of it is when we promoted the idea of creating this new access drive that can be enjoyed and shared between these uses. It started to really create some restrictions.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that explanation.
Nothing else?
I'm so happy.
All right. Any other questions? No questions?
Chairman Miller, I have a question.
Yeah.
James, just to confirm again, Los Prados Drive is not going to be a city-maintained or public roadway?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Garza, you're correct. It'll be private.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, how has the coordination been with the adjacent property owner, Walmart?
We have not heard from Walmart, although there have been notification efforts involving them through this process. Although I wouldn't, I'd be surprised if I heard from Sam Walton's family in Bentonville. But they did receive the proper notification. I know the traffic engineers associated with the project could maybe speak to that in terms of what they may have heard from Walmart, because I believe that early into the process, they had some communication with them. With that existing cross-access, though, it does legally allow the use of that access drive. And I do want to point out just real quick, I think it's on this. If you notice, even on the original plat, I don't know if it's on this document or not. Bear with me here. It's not on this one. On the original, on the PAD for the site, they had already, back in 1987, showed possible connections to the Walmart site before even Walmart was there. So it's always sort of been envisioned for there to be connectivity to the adjacent commercial development.
Yeah, and my only concern is raised is where the maintenance lies. Who's supposed to take care of the access, because it's shared, and there isn't a public entity involved. So that was my.
It's legit. Good question. Any other questions? No, you don't have a question. Golly, man. This talks about ingress and egress and access and no question, huh?
Yeah.
All right. With that, then, applicant and/or representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for having me. My name is Brian Wright. I'm with Kimley Horn, representing Aldi here. I don't think I can talk to a couple of the questions in a second, but biggest thing is Aldi is very excited to be out here. We're new to the valley, or they are new to the valley, and looking forward to being a part of this community.
Awesome. Any questions for the applicant? It's been
Glad
waiting.
you're coming. Glad you're coming.
We've been waiting patiently all this time, and we don't even have a question for him?
Do you have a timing for construction?
It kind of all depends on as we go forward in this process, but relatively soon, within the next 2 years, here at most, I think.
And I was just curious, are there any other Aldis in the state of Arizona?
Yeah, there's 4 right now that are open.
Okay,
One in Chandler, a couple in Phoenix.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, well, hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having
waiting
me.
patiently.
Absolutely.
At this time, I will open it up to the public and ask that you don't all rush at once. I will close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission. What's going on? Motions, comments, gripes, groans, or moans? What's going on? Talk to me.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, please.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to approve DSA-21-00058, the preliminary replat to subdivide the portion of Los Prados amended subdivision plat.
Second.
It's well stated. Motion and second. Any discussion? The only question, well, I guess I should have asked this before, but the piece left out, was it just because of it was already developed and they didn't want to be included in it? I
Yes.
assume? I assume that's why? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Just wanted clarification before we move
that's
forward.
it.
Any other questions or discussion? Natalie, call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. All right, one down.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve DSA-21-00059, the major site plan for all the, subject to following conditions of the council, of the staff.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? One comment. Question. This is the one you mentioned, the half-street improvement. And that means they'll only have to improve the half that comes into the property, yet you can't get into that gate.
You will be-
Technically, right? Like, I mean,
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a
you-
technicality,
yeah,
right? But
you
it's
can
the
get out,
southbound
but yeah,
lane,
that's a good point. But
which is the
pedestrians, perhaps, going out the gate.
pedestrians. Sure, I'm all for that. But we're improving a half street because once you get past the hotel, there is no street. So they have to improve their half street. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I think that comment you're making was on the bungalows, the prior item, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. Never mind. I missed it. I'm
And-
probably looking at my notes
but-
from the last meeting that I missed it.
But to answer your question, when we say half-street improvements, sometimes they get expanded from technically half-street so that there allows two-way traffic. It always is designed to allow two-way traffic, even if it's a little bit more than a half-street.
Even if it's a little more.
Yes.
I like your style. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with my old notes. Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve DSA 21-0097, variance to the landscape code.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I have no comment on this one, so.
So good.
Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. Woo, the stack's getting low. We're getting close. All right. Public hearing and consideration request a KB home for DSA 21-00089, housing product approval. We jump to agenda item number 10.
Great. Well, good evening, commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Garza. This proposal pertains to a housing product submittal for the Arroyo Vista Unit 2 subdivision on the northeastern part of Casa Grande. Oop. There we go. So the applicant is KB Home. They're looking to propose 8 floor plans ranging from 1,300 square feet to 2,600 square feet roughly. They're proposing 3 distinct exterior elevation styles with this housing product and 3 color schemes for each of those elevation styles. That will be applied to the 293 lots in the Arroyo Vista Unit 2 subdivision, which is located at the southwest corner of Peart Road and McCartney Road, near the existing McCartney Center subdivision, and also near the existing Mountain View Ranch subdivision. So some information about this subdivision. This subdivision is a 509 lot subdivision that's located, surrounded by other single-family uses. It has 2 phases. The first has 216 homes that were built by Ryland Homes last decade. And then this is looking at the 293 lots on the 97 acres that are on the eastern side of this subdivision. So some site conditions. This has been kind of an interesting scenario in Arroyo Vista 2 because there was some existing infrastructure that was already there on the site. You can see some of it that's still there. The first photo shows the Arroyo Trail, which is the collector road through that subdivision. And so that has some pavers and stamped pavement that are pursuant of the original PAD. There were some other local streets that were there that had actually incredibly high quality pavement on them, as commented on by our City Public Works Department. That has been since torn up. And now the only infrastructure that exists currently on that site is that collector road. And it's gated off, as you can see in that image. Additionally, the second image is just to give you some context of that subdivision. Arroyo Vista 1 has a mixture of 1 and 2 story homes. Again, those are built by Ryland Homes. And so you can see how where those homes are going to go on the eastern side of Arroyo Trail in Unit 2 of this subdivision. Some brief history about this site. It was annexed into the city in 2000. It was originally zoned urban ranch until it was rezoned as planned area development in 2002. In 2002, it also received its first preliminary plat for the 509 lot subdivision that you see today. That was renewed in 2004 because that had expired. In 2004, there was a final plat approved for Unit 1, and in 2006, there was a final plat approved for Arroyo Vista Unit 2, that subdivision. And the history really, for our subdivisions, the only real point that is different than most of our subdivisions is in 2009, there was a PAD amendment and a conditional use permit that was approved for a charter school in the Arroyo Vista PAD. This is a little bit more relevant for the model home conditional use permit that follows this presentation. But that basically said that in an area that took up 16 lots in this subdivision, very close to the intersection of Peart Road and Arroyo Trail, a charter school was allowed to be built on that land, in addition to single-family residential remaining a permitted use. That was conditional on that school being chartered and constructed. It was not constructed, and so that is land that will be occupied by a model home complex that we'll talk about in the next presentation, and also homes with this housing product. So if we dive into the housing product itself and the design review, what sets this proposal apart from some of the other ones that we've been reviewing is the fact that while they're all 1 story, they are all 48 to 50 feet wide. 7 of them are 50 feet wide, and 1 of them is 48 feet wide. This is a little bit more indicative of the product that KB is putting forward in the Tucson market as opposed to the Phoenix market, which kind of follows what we've seen this year with housing product, is that we've seen some wider models. Country Walk Estates was the most recent one to get approved that was showcasing more of that kind of wider Tucson model. And so those, again, for both the entry-level homes at 1,300 feet and our larger homes at around 2,600 square feet, you're seeing those kind of wider elevations that are de-emphasizing those 2-car garages and showing a little bit more in terms of front porches, covered entryways, things like that. And this just gives you kind of a primer of how those different elevations look and how those different styles differentiate from one another. Just some basic features to pay attention to. Elevation A, the Spanish elevation, they all feature arch detailing and all have covered entries. the Southern Italian elevation type. They have more bracket arches and have dual stucco tones. They have kind of a unique dual stucco type finish that looks rather nice. And then there's the Tuscan C elevation. That features covered porches. They emphasize that porch structure a little bit more, some more square detailing, and they have stone finish, which is something that we really look for and in a lot of our elevations that we get approved here. So for proposed color schemes, you can see the ones that are proposed with this housing product. It's worth noting just a couple details that terracotta tile will be used on the Spanish and Southern Italian elevations, a little bit higher durability material on those roofs. And then the Tuscan elevations will also include stone finishes on the front. The only other comment of note here would be that something we try to encourage in the city is that all of the color palettes put forward offer something beyond the kind of earthen tones, the beige tones, something to really differentiate between homes. And what you'll see here is that each of those color schemes has a blue, a red, an orange, something that really kind of stands out from the rest of the home and really provides a stark accent color. It's something that really tends to make homes look a little bit nicer and kind of age a little bit better in terms of their appearance over time. So the Arroyo Vista sub-PAD is required to meet this, or any housing products put forward in the Arroyo Vista PAD is required to meet the 1999 residential design standards for PADs. In particular, this housing product needs to meet sections 2A and 2B. 2A have requirements in terms of how the elevations are designed and how roofs and the presentation of roof lines. They have to have a minimum of 4 floor plans. That's been done. They have 8. A minimum of 3 distinct color schemes. They have 9. And they've met that requirement for a variety of roofing materials, colors, shapes, and textures. We believe that there's more than sufficient diversity in KB's proposal for Arroyo Vista in a way that's also very compatible with the existing Arroyo Vista 1. In addition, in section 2B, they have to meet 4 of the 6 standards in that section. They are allowed to choose which of those standards they meet. We believe that they've met 4 of them, incorporating durable exterior materials and finishes, particularly tile and stone in this housing product. Provides significant architectural features, particularly those Tuscan elevations provide really well-emphasized front porches, and almost every single floor plan offers a covered front entryway. And they have significant window detailing. It's things we look for in a high-quality housing product. They de-emphasize those front-loaded garages, both in the X direction, the horizontal direction, but the width of the homes, but also in recessing them. All of the floor plans put forward have livable area that is in front of the garage doors. Again, really meets what we look for in these housing products, and they exceed the mandatory number of elevations required for our housing products. So the public hearing notification has met all of the standards put forward by the city. There are 2 signs on the site, and we've got evidence of that has been posted for the time it needs to be posted, and no comments have been submitted on this housing product. So in short, staff recommends that the commission approves DSA 21-00089, subject to the following conditions. The one I really want to highlight here is one that isn't normally in our provisions for housing product. It's just that there are some references in the narrative that say that it's a 277 lot subdivision. It is a 293 lot subdivision, and all of their technical documents show that it's 293. So there's just some edits that need to be made to their application. The only other one that's of note is the water supply, just that no building permits can be approved here until it's demonstrated that the city has water supply that meets fire department approval. The rest of the conditions here are standard for housing product in the city. So in short, we recommend approval as a staff for this project.
Questions? No questions? All right. Applicant and/or representative? I was hoping it was you, because we're running low on people around here. Huh? Yeah, I narrowed it down. Well, I know her, so
Had a good shot.
That's right.
I am Justy Dodge, and I'm a purchasing agent with KB Home. Our office is 10429 South 51st Street, Suite 100 in Phoenix. We are just starting to build at McCartney Center, and we're excited to get going on this larger amount of lots. And the 16 lots, the reason that was excluded from the narrative is those were still under negotiation to be purchased when the narrative was submitted. So
Okay.
we can definitely update that for you. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, any questions or?
Any questions for the applicant? No. Look at you, patiently waiting.
Like it.
You know, made it easy for you. Well, thanks for coming here this
Yeah,
evening.
thank you.
All right.
I'll be ready for the next part too.
That's right. Don't go far, okay? Don't go far. I will open it up to the public. We don't have anybody on Zoom, do we? No, okay. I'll close the public portion. Just the commissioner? Yeah. Okay, good.
That's right, I'm still here.
Okay, good. All right, then I'll close the public portion, bring it back to the commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the housing project DSA-21-00089 for Era Vista Unit 2, subject to following conditions of the staff.
Second.
Motioned and seconded. It's your first second since you've been on. Congratulations. Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict, Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
I almost wanted to say no just so I couldn't give you two, but I'll vote yes. He didn't even flinch. He didn't even flinch. All right, motion approved. Next agenda item. DSA 21-00098, conditional use permit.
Great. I think this is the last one on the agenda too, so last but not least. So this has to do with a proposal for a conditional use permit for a model home complex in that same Arroyo Vista 2 subdivision, directly related to the housing product that was just approved. So this is a model home complex with 3 home models, in particular the 1618, 2096, and 2301 models that were just approved in the previous housing product, and then 2 parking areas, 1 for sales and 1 for construction. So this shows the location of that model home complex proposed in the Arroyo Vista Unit 2 subdivision. You'll see that it's at that southwestern corner of Peart and Arroyo Trail. It takes up 5 lots 273 through 277 in that subdivision. This is a site plan of that model home complex. You can see the 3 home models that are built to the PAD standards for the Arroyo Vista subdivision, and the 2 parking areas, which will provide 13 spaces in total, 12 spaces, and then 1 paved accessible space. All of those parking areas will have the 3-inch minimum decomposed granite. There's walkways that connect the homes. And then there's landscape packages that were a part of the housing product that will also be applied to these lots as well. So in terms of our conditional use permit criteria, those have been detailed in your staff report and are also on the screen here. I want to spend some time focusing on just 2 of them in particular. The first has to do with the relationship to roadways and highways. We want to put forward that this does a particularly good job of avoiding traffic impacts on the neighborhood with sales traffic, even though that's relatively low, just because of its location close to the Arroyo Trail collector and the Peart road, arterial there. That traffic doesn't need to cross far into that neighborhood. It's very visible from Peart Road as well. It is not something that will have any real adverse impacts in terms of traffic on that neighborhood. The other one I wanted to take a look at was just the, this slide. Adverse effects on abutting properties. Sometimes it can be a question of if signage or some of these other features of model home complexes could affect abutting properties, especially as those homes are being built. The signage won't affect neighboring properties because there's no lighting. The size is pretty limited of these signs. And additionally, as I'll detail on the next slide here, they are subject to the temporary sign permit, and they get removed at the expiration of the conditional use permit as well. The parking lots, they don't adversely affect the lots at all, so those could eventually be redeveloped into single-family homes. And on top of it, as block walls fill in around them from behind, and because of neighboring tract areas, those won't adversely affect surrounding homes by having cars parking next to other existing single-family homes as they get built. As I said, the low traffic on the site really avoids any particular adverse effects in that regard. I'm going the wrong way. The only thing that we wanted to call attention to in terms of the site plan for this model home complex is the outdoor portable toilet, just to avoid any aesthetic or visual effects that detract from the goals of the Arroyo Vista PAD. We're suggesting a condition to just screen that outdoor toilet there, just to ensure that that's not visible from other residential properties that are building around this area. Just again, it's solely in terms of aesthetic and visual effect and ensuring that we're meeting all of the goals set forth in that Arroyo Vista PAD as it was written. It's compliant with the general plan. It's compliant with the general health, safety, and welfare of the community. No negative effects there. It follows the same public hearing notifications of the housing product, DSA 2189. The signage and the appropriate mailings have been put out. The appropriate newspaper posting was also put out. There were no comments or public inquiries on this project either. So in short, staff recommends that the commission approve the conditional use permit for the model home complex, DSA 2198, for the Arroyo Vista subdivision, subject to the conditions that you'll find in the staff report, and I'll also show on the screen here. Just a handful of conditions that we generally apply to these types of model home complexes receiving conditional use permits. And also just the portable toilet condition there is the one that's unusual for a model home conditional use permit. So with that, we recommend approval for this, and I'll open it up to the commission with any questions that you have.
Questions for staff?
I just have one question. What, in the conditional use permit, and that would be the condition A, it mentions the undeveloped lots within Gila Buttes. I don't understand, what's that got to do with it?
That's a typo in the report, and that's my apologies. That's been a typo that carried on from several reports ago.
He's just testing you.
So.
He wanted to make sure you
Sorry.
read your staff report.
Yeah, glad you've read the staff report, but unfortunately that was a typo. So please forgive me for that.
I'm sorry I asked.
Okay. I'm a young planner. You have to embarrass me a little bit now and then. So I'm green.
You missed it, Brett.
That wasn't on anybody else's question notepad over here, so.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for staff then, since we got that cleared up? No questions? No? All right. Hey, do you want to come state your name and address again, or are you?
Jesse Dodgen. Our office is located at 10429 South 51st Street, Suite 100 in Phoenix. As far as the issue with the screening on the Porta-John, there should have been a detail sheet included with the submittal, so if that's missing, I can get that to you.
Great.
Guarantee you, we do that on every Porta-John
Okay.
at every
Great.
model home complex, so that will not be an issue.
Excellent.
Thank you for clearing that up for us.
Yes.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? No? All right, well, thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Just for habit's sake, I'll open it up to the public and make sure nobody comes through the door to speak to it. Close the public portion. Commission?
I'll make a motion to, we approve DSA #21 0098 for a conditional use permit for a model home complex for Aero Vista Unit Number 2, subject to the following conditions of the staff.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Motion approved. Congratulations. Thank you for your patience and being the last agenda item. And you have a fantastic rest of your evening.
He's got to drive home all the way to the west side.
You can hang out in one of the quality inns here, you know.
Chairman Miller, my
Yeah, what's that?
apologies. I believe we also need to make a motion to approve the resolution for a conditional use permit as well for that
Because
model
we
home
did not
complex.
include the associated resolution within that conditional use permit. That's fantastic. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Awesome. Any discussion? Natalie, let's go for a roll call.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. We got that taken care of for you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. That would have been a bummer, wouldn't it?
Pardon me
Get
for
all the way to
forgetting
the
that.
end and not have the resolution approved. We have to do this all over again. You're good to go now. He's like, he didn't want to leave. All right. Oh, you know, if it was the first agenda item, Member Benedict here would have caught that right off the bat. He'd have had it.
Yeah, sure.
All right. We got a, where am I at here?
You're at call to the public.
Call to the public. There you go. Thank you. I got lost on my agenda here. It's too long. There's no public, so I'm going to close the public portion. And we got some reports. Planning Director.
So, Mr. Chair, before we go to reports, speaking of voting, Natalie informs me that we failed to read and record Member Benedict's name and vote on the Aldi's landscape variance, for which he actually made the motion. So I don't know if you recall, Member Benedict, but you didn't vote. So could we record your vote on DSA 21-00097?
Aye.
Thank you. Got that cleared up.
Got it.
Way to go.
As far as reports, we did administratively approve a minor site plan for Jomi Engineering at 749 West Ash to add a 160 square foot chemical storage building. The city council did have two decisions on planning commission recommendations at their last meeting. They had first reading to approve the major amendment to the Los Prados PAD, for which the major site plan you approved this evening. And also they approved the resolution for the re-subdivision final plat of Lot 1 of Casa Grande Mercado Edition. So those were the council approvals, and I've provided you with the monthly reports, and that ends the report section.
Move to adjourn?
Motion second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.